Welcome, everybody. Welcome into Beyond the Booth. That ugly guy to the end we've already talked about. He's Phil Harris. I'm Randall Cunningham. And we've got a special guest tonight. And I think what makes this guest special, when Phil and I both were starting into covering sports, one of the first players I remember, Phil, is Coach Vest. So that makes it special to me that we've been full circle with her. Coach Jamie Vest from Valley Head. Coach, I want to ask you a question first.
Okay.
We all know you're going into the DeKalb County Sports Hall of Fame. What was your first reaction to that?
Well, I felt honored for sure. It's nothing that I ever expected. So, very blessed to have received even the recognition, to even be considered.
Coach, a little birdie sent me a question and said to ask you how you first reacted when your mom told you the news of you going into the Hall of Fame. So, what was that first reaction from you like?
Oh, goodness. I probably said, "Are you sure?" I can't remember, but I think I said something to that extent. I really was shocked.
Well, it's an honor well deserved. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Valleyhead, the man that knows more about Valleyhead sports than anybody I know, with the next Phil Harris. Welcome on in.
Well, Jamie, the first thing I want to ask you about before we actually get started, got a new member of the family, grandson born, Carson. I know the family's thrilled, both sides of the family. It's a huge family, but
Yeah.
both sides are very excited to have Carson. Of course, I've told everybody, I said, did somebody tell Carson what he's gotten himself into? But of course, I know it's a big thrill for everybody.
Absolutely. He is a blessing.
Yeah, I know, with pictures all over Facebook and whatnot. And, not I even talked about, I said, there's one thing, they're not going to have any problems finding babysitters. I've kind of come up with an idea to maybe how to get him to college is, have you do that everybody does the football boards and you sell
Yes.
squares. If
Yes.
we could sell squares like $10 a piece, and the first person that wants to babysit, you buy a square and you draw numbers out, and that person gets to babysit. I'm figuring about 5 months, you should have enough money
I bet we would.
to get him through college.
Yes, I bet we would.
I've already told Coach her job's just to spoil. So
Right.
first try refusal at all points. So
Yes, I can do that.
Well, I know the Hall of Fame is a big deal for you. There's a lot of people that's behind it. I know your mother and dad, Jimmy and Adele, a big influence on your life. I know your dad coached you up through the years, but who was the big influences that really got you into coaching? Was it first your dad?
Yeah, I would say so. I guess being around sports all my life, that's all I ever knew. Growing up, my dad played, he coached me, he coached my sister, actually he coached my sister, I think. And I just was young and would go to practice with them and would practice when I was in elementary school with them. So I guess just being around it, and from the time I guess I was in seventh grade, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I would
Yeah,
tell
of
everybody that.
course. Yeah, of course, going to the Hall of Fame, and, I know it's a huge honor, and I know you're looking forward to the banquet. But this is one of those things where your family may be more excited than sometimes you are.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, well, now there's another fella that, has had a big influence on your life, Coach Bobby Holloway. He's being inducted on the same night. That has to be extra special because he's meant so much to you. I'm sure as a player, as a coach, as a mentor, he even has helped you coaching wise. This is a big deal for him too.
Oh, yes, for sure. You know, I love Coach Holloway. Definitely a big influence in my life. One of the best coaches around and very much deserving. of being inducted, if not a little late, but thankful he is being inducted with me. I told him what an honor it was for us to go in together. I think that's very special.
Yeah, I know. Being on the board, I think a lot of people have not understood in the past that you have to be nominated. They don't just pick people; they have to be nominated, and individuals have to do that. And then the board takes it from there. And a lot of people in the past really hadn't understood that, but I think everybody's kind of gotten the message now because a lot of people have been overlooked over the years.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Well, of course, getting back, let's talk a little bit about your playing career. Of course, you played at Valley Head. Tell us, a little bit about, of course, your playing career. Of course, you ended up being the second leading scorer all time in DeKalb County basketball history behind Heather Mays. But there was a whole lot more to your career. Tell us a little bit about it.
Just going back or what?
Yeah, just kind of get things started from your younger years on all the way up to the varsity level.
Okay. Yeah, like I said earlier, I started out going to practices in 5th, 6th grade with my sister. Then continuing to practice. She was a senior my 7th grade year. So when I would play, I was on the junior high, of course, but I got to practice with the varsity. I also got to play as a 7th grader on the varsity. Didn't start, but I got to get on the court a little bit, and that kind of started my career, I guess you would say. And then, going into my 8th grade year, that's when Coach Holloway came in and started helping. And, I ended up earning a starting position in the 8th grade. And it just started off, and I set goals for myself. I told everybody I'm going to play in college. That was a goal. And, it wasn't if I can, I was going to do it. And nobody was going to tell me I couldn't do it because I'd set that goal and I was going to reach it no matter what it took. And, it was a lot of Saturdays and Sundays when everybody else was off doing stuff that I was working on my own, but all that work, you can have a lot of natural ability, but for somebody of my height, you got to work a little bit extra. So, I had to do a little bit of extra because I knew, that I wasn't just going to be able to practice and go. So it was a lot of summers and played AAU ball, played against some good competition, with some good competition all the way throughout my years. I remember traveling in the summers, going to nationals and stuff with AAU teams and things of that such. So lots of different factors played in my career.
Yeah, definitely. So, and of course, I mean, hats off. You had some great teammates during your years. And like Jamie Ball, Kayla Bellworthy, and you had like Chrissy Norman, and of course, you can name several more. But Coach Holloway had some good teams at that time. You were kind of plugged in, and I think people's asked me about who were the best players that played when I called basketball, and I said two that comes up on the girls' side were you and Heather Mays. And I said, what made Jamie so good is that you give her the basketball, you got a 2-point lead with 3 minutes to go. You put the ball in their hands. She's not going to turn it over. If you foul her, she's going to knock down those clutch free throws. And that says a lot. That meant Coach Holloway could spread the floor and put the ball in your hands and then, wait for backdoor cuts and things like that on easy baskets. But, Jamie had that ability, I tell everybody, to kind of control a basketball game. Do you feel like that was, a part of the best part, maybe one of the best parts of your game?
Yeah. I definitely feel like that. I was a leader, and I think that, you always, as a coach, looking back, you always want that player that wants the ball in their hands. And I definitely always, especially at clutch, I wanted the ball in my hands, and, you was talking about the teammates and things. There was no jealousy on our team. We had lots of girls do lots of good things. It wasn't just me. I would tell them all the time, y'all make my assists look good, things like that. But there was no jealousy. We were a great, we all got along. We knew what each of our roles were, and that was my role. One of my roles was, when it come down to a last second shot or something like that, the ball was usually in my hands.
Of course, tell us about playing for Coach Holloway. I mean, most people that sees him would watch him on the sideline, had a real mild demeanor at times, and sat on the bench, not say a whole lot a lot of times, but a little different person when he got to the locker room at halftime.
Yes, completely different. Yeah. I've never had a problem being coached hard, because I was not only coached hard by him, but when I get home, I get coached hard there too. And one thing that my parents always told me, don't ever, talk about your coach. Don't ever come home and, you know, um, say, I don't like him or he did this or that, because he's doing his job. So we don't want anything said. So yeah, they knew that's where he did his hollering. And that was always, we didn't know if we was ever going to be in the line of a clipboard going by our faces or a marker or something. But yeah, he was a completely different coach in the locker room, but very well respected. And I never had an issue with that.
He's very well respected amongst his peers too. I remember when the board was talking about Coach Holloway, and many of them remembered him when he played basketball at Fife, how good he was. Anywhere he's ever been, whatever he's coached, he's been very successful. And, and I'm sure that on to you, because I'm sure you took a lot of the traits from him that he taught you onto the basketball floor in your coaching, because you've had a pretty good longevity career at Valley Head at coaching girls basketball. And I'm sure there's been a whole lot more ups than there has been downs.
Yes. Yeah, he taught me a lot, and throughout all my career, I've had really good coaches that I learned a lot from. A lot of differences in how you play. Of course, that comes with the ability level you have on your team and what type of design of how you play, and with Coach Holloway, we were a very fast-paced team, pressing. We didn't play much man, but we were a pressing team, and we did move the ball down the floor.
Yeah, I know y'all had some constant battles, especially with Fife. Y'all did win one county championship while you were playing, but playing like against teams like Fife made you that much better. I think it helped when you got to the 1A level, because y'all were very successful at the 1A level. But county basketball in DeKalb County is very, very competitive. It was back then. It still is today.
Right. It was always, one of the, and it still is, a lot of the teams from around Northeast in DeKalb County are the ones you see, fighting in Jacksonville to go further.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, that's like we was talking about this year. I remember when we had Iders coach on, and we were talking about, if you can just get out of your backyard, you got a chance to win a state championship, because you've got to get out of your area around here, and then you've got a shot.
Exactly.
Well, Jamie, let's go back and talk about your years when you played at Valley Head. Of course, I think it was the first year I started calling basketball. Y'all made it to Hanceville and run into Pam Duncan, a hot night for her. They beat y'all out of the playoffs that year, but that was an outstanding team, an outstanding year.
Yes. Yeah. I'm thinking that was my sophomore or junior year. I think it was my junior year that we made it to Hansville, and then they went the next year to the Final Four. But yes, she was very good. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that the game before them, we almost broke a record, and on the amount of points scored. But I'm pretty sure Coach Holloway took us all out, and we didn't get that record. But then we ran into Carrollton and with Pam Duncan, and she was the real deal. Very great player.
Yeah, she played lights out that day. I can remember that because y'all had an outstanding team, and everybody was giving y'all a great chance of possibly winning it then. But she just put on a show that day. But then, of course, next year you won the moved to the regional sites, and y'all won the region championship then at Jacksonville. Then you went down to Birmingham again, won in the semifinals. Then you got to the finals and played that same team. Pam Duncan led. Whole totally different basketball game.
Yeah. I actually just watched that game about a month ago. First time I've watched it since that day. It was a little hard to watch. It brought back a lot of memories, and a lot of hurt, because you think back and you're like, golly, we missed this easy layup, or we missed this shot. We should have won this game. We ended up doubling her, and somebody off the bench. I think she was a ninth grader coming off the bench and hit a 3-pointer. So, and we just left her wide open. And of course, that's great coaching. You double the, SEC. She had signed with Alabama. We double teamed her. And you have to take away from the best player, and somebody come in and hit a luck shot, So
Yeah.
it was a close game. It was a heartbreaker for sure. And, but something that we've got in the trophy case still, and the only team that has one. So
Yeah, that's
on the
definitely, of
basketball
course.
side.
Yeah, Randy and I were there, and and both of us, our heart broke for y'all because y'all had put so much into that game, and it was Pam Duncan this and Pam Duncan that, but y'all defended her. It was a defensive struggle rather than an offensive scoring match because y'all were a lot different team. Y'all were more defensive oriented than you were the year before. The year before was a lot of scoring, but this team was a lot more of a defensive team and more half court style. But our heart broke for you. But then again, it would have been nice to have won that state championship. Everybody wants to win that blue trophy, but you can't let that define you as a person, because what the most important thing was in all that, and I'm sure when you think back, was the relationships, the friendships, working to that point and having an opportunity to win a state championship. All those memories are really, that climb is what really is important.
Oh, yes. I tell everybody, even my kids when they were growing up or whatever, I'm like, that's what sports are, to learn and to grow and develop. And, you learn so much about life through them. Because in life you're going to have heartache, and so some heartache, definitely heartache that is worse than losing a basketball game. But you have to learn, how to always come back from that, or what did you learn out of that? You made mistakes, of course. When I went back and watched that game, I saw I made this mistake, or I should have done this different, or, it's always questionable. Some things that we could have done different, but definitely learn from it. And I think grew as a ball player from that, different things that I knew that I done wrong myself.
Well, Jamie, I want to ask you this, and I'll let Randy ask a couple of questions. Do you have some memories of your favorite games in the past besides that one? Do you have some games that they're real memorable, like winning the county championship against Fife? I know there's some games that stood out there that come back to memory when you reflect back in your playing days.
Yeah, definitely Fife. Beating them in the county championship was a big one that I'll never forget. I do remember that I had been sick that week with the flu, and so all that kind of stuff comes to my memory, of what I had to do so I could play in the game, and different things like that. But you know, we believed we could do it. A lot of people don't believe in a small school. It's still that way today. You're at the smallest school in the county, and people don't give you the benefit of the doubt, of how good you could be or whatever. And we knew we were good. We knew they were good. And of course, Heather and I are great friends, and we were when we played against each other. So I knew we had to stop her. We had to keep her from being that one to have the ball at the last. So I do remember that specifically. I remember I knew who they were going to throw the ball to because it was a close game. And I can remember being as close to her as I could get because I knew that I was like, I'm going to be on her, because I know they're going to Heather. And I think she shot the ball maybe from half court, if I'm not mistaken, and it hit the rim. That was definitely a great memory because a lot of people, like I said, didn't give us the credit, that we could win. And when we won that, just the excitement that we got to share and experience as players, and doing that for the first time in the history of Valley Head, winning that county championship, that was huge. And that was just a great memory. Some of my other memories, I guess, would be just the playoffs. All of course, you've got, throughout certain games, but most of them that stick out for me were the playoffs and the crowds. And, I tell everybody how important the crowds are because that's what I remember. I remember chants. I remember, them cheering for us and the student section being so big. And, that was to me a very important as a player to have, that aspect. People don't realize how much you need that when you're playing the game to hear your home crowd cheering for you. But I think I remember another one that stands out was in the 8th grade. I think that was when I got to really play against her name just left me, from Paint Rock Valley, Gretchen Prince. But yeah, she was one of the dominant ball players over there, and Paint Rock Valley was really, really good. And so I got to play against her, and we got to experience beating them a few times. So that was pretty good.
Phil dropped off and he'll be back in a second, but I wanted to ask you about that junior year. Did you not? And I remember y'all being number one in the state after you beat Valley Head. Did you not get hurt later on in your junior year and have to deal with the injury?
I got hurt my sophomore year, and
Maybe
we
it
were
was-
ranked. Yes, it was my sophomore year. We were ranked number one in the state. We had just found out our rankings, and I'm pretty sure it was in January when I tore my ACL. And I remember the date of having the surgery was January 20th. That sticks out to me. But yeah, we were ranked first in the state. And then I went down with the knee injury and, of course, had surgery. So I didn't get to finish the year with my team.
What did not being able to play do to you as a player?
It was awful. I went to it it teaches you. I think that may be really where I learned a lot about how to sit back and try to watch Coach Holloway, and maybe he gave me roles so that he could help me to continue to be a part of the team. Because when you're hurt, it's hard to feel like you're a part of a team. You know, you're not out there. I'm over on the side. I would go to every practice, and I would be over on the side doing my, you know, all my exercises and things for my knee. But I remember being on broadcast, like they would broadcast our games and things, and I would get to speak, on the radio and do things like that. But it was definitely hard to not be able to play because I really, not that I did anything, but we had to shift our whole lineup around that year. We had to bring a post player up to play the point guard position. So there was a lot of new that they had to learn very quickly, and they still, I think made it to the first round of the playoffs. But it was crushing, because I really feel like we had a lot of the opportunities to that year as well.
You know, um, well, I think getting back on, get back in a second. Get back in a second. Way, always. Let me feel on real fast.
Okay.
I remember Coach Holloway, no matter what happened on the court, would come to you and talk to you. And even back then, I think Coach Holloway looks at you, at Jamie, as his coach on the court. Did you ever feel that way? 'Cause I'm going to tell you, no matter where the tantrum was or who he's mad with, he was going to come talk to you and have you address the team on the court. So,
Oh yeah.
was that your first feeling that, hey, maybe he sees me as a coach?
I probably never thought of it like that, but I, as a coach, I've always told him, at the point guard position, I've always kind of, because he did that to me, I've kind of like done that as well. You are the coach on the court because the coaches can't be out there. I never understood why I got chewed out though for all the other players, but I did, just like you said, it didn't matter what happened. I was the one that he would chew out for them missing a pass or a shot or something. But yeah, that would bother me sometimes. I'd get real mad at him for that. I'd be like, but that wasn't me. He'd be like, you're the coach out there. You've got to, and he told me that, you have to, get your team together. And when they're on the court, you have to make them do what you want them to do.
Bill, I got one more and then I'll come back to you. Coach, I want to ask you about, like I said, we were both at that state championship game. And it was, I don't want to hear it was a 1A game because it was one of the most electrifying environments I've ever been in my life. Been doing sports 30-something years. And the BJCC was just on fire that night. You, that night, really took Pam Duncan on face to face in a lot of situations. And you're not, I think Pam was about 6'1", and you're certainly not 6'1". Did you take that as a personal challenge that night?
Yeah, I'd kind of knew what she could do. And Coach Holloway and I kind of talked a little bit about that. Of course, we definitely had a height difference for sure. But I do remember, and even watching the game film back about a month ago, like I know their go-to player. She was their go-to player. And whether it was I was coming off to trap her or I was going to deny her the ball, I knew that that was who I had to defend. And, and he kind of knew that as well. I think we practiced either if I was defending her, we would have extra help behind me, because of course she was going to shoot right over me for sure. So a lot of my defending was more in front of or going and trapping with her or something like that. So definitely took it as personal. I wanted to guard the best player. I wanted to be the one that tried to stop her. I took that as part of my personal goal to do.
I think it was one of the toughest performances I ever saw an athlete perform. And you should, to this day, that night, it's just how not only yourself, but everybody physically tough. Valley Head. It was really inspiring to me.
Well, thank you. Our team, when I think back to playing that night and rewatching that game, every player, every one of our girls, we all fought so hard. Just rewatching it was like, wow, we all knew what we had to do. It was unfortunate, but I think we did what we were supposed to do, and we stuck together as a team, and we all played our roles correctly and did what we were supposed to do. Missed a few layups or free throws or things, could have been the game factor, but that happens. But yeah, I do remember someone sending a letter to our school not long after that, and they had no affiliation with Valley Head or Carrollton. They were there for another game, and they said when they saw us run out on the court that they were like, oh my gosh, they're about to get killed. This team can't stay on the court with this other team. And they said it was very inspiring to watch that game because they didn't even give us a chance when they saw us warm up. So that's a memory I have of Coach Holloway reading that letter, to us that was sent to our school from somebody nobody knew, so that was encouraging.
I remember running into Chuck and Wesley Person, or Wesley played the next. I remember some of the Person's family was in the VIP area, and they told, and midfield had called it, or Phil had called it, and I remember them talking about how tough, how scrappy that team that had just played Carrollton was. So I'm sure you've never heard that, but I was sitting there going, yeah, those girls are scrappy, that's for sure. And I thought that was a huge compliment from somebody that played in the NBA and played college basketball at a high level. Phil, are you back with us now? Cause
I'm back with us having internet issues. I seem to have that a lot. It gets aggravating sometimes, but yeah. And you were talking about, the person family. They played at Brantley and they played Skyline when they played down there. And then, of course, Brantley ended up winning the state championship that year. Know exactly what you're talking about. But well, getting back, Jamie, I want to touch on that just a second, and then we'll go on. But the thing was with Pam Duncan, the first time y'all played her, naturally a talent like her wants to run. And if you leave her open and let her do what she wants to do, she's going to wear you out. But the thing is, y'all did to her, y'all defended her and you made her work. And I don't know how many times they would dump the ball into her and she would just dump it back out because y'all put so much pressure on her. She was not able to work to get her shot. She wanted to just kind of come to her. She wasn't going to work for it. And, as the game wore on, and the more I watched the game, I said, this team's got a shot because Duncan's just not going to take over the game because Valley Head's not going to let her.
Right. I do remember Coach Holloway discussing that with us. He was like, be physical. Of course, as you said earlier, we were scrappy, every one of us. We had to be, and that was the name of our game. But I remember him saying, we don't have the height advantage, so we're gonna have to be rough. He's even if you get a foul or whatever, you got to be rough when she gets in there. And I do remember that being one of the talks or before we went out to play them was, just stand your ground and make her fight for every shot that she got.
Well, I know you was talking about where you spent your time at Berry. You know, academics is a huge part at Berry College. You know, I know you played basketball, but there's no favoritism there. School's tough.
Yes, it definitely is. I was very fortunate at Berry or both schools, colleges that I went to, but definitely hard to figure out, academics with being on the road and playing sports. When people talk about going on and playing college ball, I don't ever discourage it, but I say you better love it because it's like a job. It's a job.
Yeah, because we see so many around here, they'll take off to college and think, it's going to be like it was in high school, but it's a whole totally different game. The mental part of it's different. You're not the hometown hero anymore. You've got to work your way up the ladder. You got to keep up with academics. There's no just sliding by. So it's a whole totally different world that some people are not ready for.
Oh yeah. And I try to always, if I'm around someone that's going or even any of my girls that's, had opportunities to do that. And my daughter went on, but, just, it's not that they didn't love it, if they didn't make it. I'm not saying that, but, um, it's, um, it's definitely if you want to make the good grades in your academics, you're not going to have a lot of other time, to do things. So your focus is mainly, I'm going to practice and I'm studying, going to classes.
Well, definitely. So when you were in college, did you know you wanted to get into coaching basketball and going back to be a teacher?
Oh, yes, yes. I knew it from the time I was in junior high school.
Did you ever dream you'd end up at Valley Head?
That was always a goal, but no, not really. I just wanted to be wherever I could, to do what I loved. And that was always a goal to get back to Valley Head, but I didn't know if that would ever happen.
Yeah, of course, we want to talk to you a little bit about your coaching, but I want to bring one person up, and that's Morgan, your daughter.
Mhm.
She's finished college now. She's
Mhm.
fixing to go in. I'm sure she wants to be a coach. She has a lot of other things she does other than coaching, but she got to coach out at Ider and got the experience of playing or actually helping coach for a state championship. That had to be a huge honor for her. Because it's about those girls, and I know she gives back a lot to the community already,
Oh
and you
yeah.
can tell, she loves those young ladies, and it looks like she's going to really enjoy coaching when her opportunity comes.
Right. Yes. So she did get in, she graduated, and that's what she's wanted to do. Is she wants to coach, and she's also a health and physical education major. So, Jamie Pruitt, of course, had contacted me and, asked me, would she be interested? Because he saw she was doing her student teaching at Ider. And I was like, no, you can't have her. But, I thought that it was best for her to go on. I knew the talent he had. And I knew that instead of me being selfish and keeping her, with me and as an assistant, I thought it would be good for her to go coach under someone else as well. And you know, I'm just so proud that she was able to be a part of a state championship team. And I feel like that is great for her resume. And she's learned a lot from Jamie. He's, the things he's done. And just being a part of that team will help her in her future for sure.
Yeah. I know when we had Jamie on here, we asked him about her, and he thinks highly of Morgan, said she was a huge part of the team. And it's good to have a young person like that because she gets along. She's not much older than the ones playing, so that really helps. Jamie's been around a while, but it helps to have a go between. And I think Morgan was a big help to his staff.
Right. She's a go-getter for sure. She works, no doubt. She works hard. And like you said, she was close to the girls. And I think that you have to have that kind of relationship, as I think back to my career with Coach Holloway. I remember going in and just sitting with him and talking to him and wanting to be around him outside of playing. We would just have conversations and, things like that. So I think it's important as a coach to have that with your players.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, let's talk about your coaching career at Valley Head. Of course, you've had some success. I know you got to the county finals once, but you've had a lot of great young ladies that's played for you. And I'm sure the most important part of coaching is, is how these young ladies turn out to be as people. I know it's thrilling for you when they come back and let you know they're getting married or they finished college or they've got a child on the way, because they share that with you because you've been such an inspiration for them.
As I've grown through coaching, that is, I've always been close to my players as well. I've always told them, and I do, they feel like my own every year. I lose seniors, to go on into life. And, that's one of the biggest things that, not that I learned, but I've always told them, let's learn about life through this. We may not always be the best team, and we may not have been the best team, but I wanted them to learn about life, and I wanted them to know, you know that I was there for them if they ever needed them, anyone. And I've had a lot of players that has had to call me, and that needed other, outside of basketball. And like you said, the best things are when you see them out in public and they come up and hug you and still tell you they love you and things like that. And just that I might have had a little bit of a part in helping them through life.
Of course, one thing you got to do, and a lot of coaches, really enjoy that part of it. You got to coach your daughter. I know that meant the world.
It's awesome. And I was able to coach Morgan and Riley, my stepdaughter, um, through their career. And it is fun. I'm not sure Morgan would think that, but it is fun to do that. And I've seen so much of her or myself in her, her drive and her leadership skills and things like that. I got to see a lot of that in her, and the way she played the game as well. So that was pretty awesome.
Let's talk about your family a little bit. Of course, your husband, Dave,
Mhm.
anytime you're a coach, uh, the spouse, a lot of times, the kids and everything, they have to make sacrifices because coaching takes you away from a lot of things. But I know Dave has always been supportive of you. I've known Dave for a long time. And that means a lot because, without him, it's hard to hold things together.
Right. I definitely think you have to have someone that can handle you being gone, whether it be in the summertime. I mean, you got late nights, you're getting home late. So it's definitely hard on the spouses. Sometimes I think it's maybe even harder on the men, because the women usually have to do more with the kids or things like that. And so when you take um, that into the equation, Dave had to do a lot. He had to pick up a lot of slack with all that. And so yeah, he's been great and supportive. And he has to hear it all, what I did wrong or what I feel like, so he doesn't just get to leave a game with me, he has to hear it at home as well. So that's always hard. So I am thankful for him and his support that he's always given me.
Yeah, of course, your dad, Jimmy, I'm sure too. He's going to be the first one to pat you on the back, but he's also, I'm sure, critical sometimes of you because one thing I know about your parents, they demand the best. I mean, and
Yes.
they're not going to cut you any slack.
Right. And I think that is what made me who I am, today. I don't claim to be the best or anything, when I played, I couldn't have done it without all my teammates. And I just think that I just wanted the best and to be the best that I could be. And I think that was a reflection on my parents and how they raised me. They didn't try to ever step in with my coach if or anything in that matter. They made me have to handle situations on my own. And I know they would be there if I ever needed anything, but I don't think that they would have, let anything happen. But what I was meaning is just letting me figure it out, but they did demand that. So I give that to them.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, let's talk about coaching wise. What are your fondest memories? I know, you always have to run. It just seems like all the time Valleyhead has to run into Spring Garden or Skyline somewhere along the way. Of course, the county is tough, very competitive. You're at one of the smallest, the smallest school actually in the county, but it's very competitive. But you've had a lot of highlights. You got to the county finals once. You've made the playoffs several times. So you've had a pretty good career, coach. Pretty good career coaching.
Right. Yes, I wouldn't take anything for either school that I've coached at. Started at Ider and eventually came to Valley Head. But yes, great group of girls. I can't, on all the way up 21 or 25 years of it. I've had wonderful athletes, wonderful girls. Whether it was a great team or not, it's been great. You know, so many memories. I couldn't just name just one, but the highlights of them have been the county finals, of course. And I think that was Morgan's eighth grade year, maybe. I can't remember for sure, but I'm pretty sure we made it to the finals against Collinsville. And I think they ended up beating us by 5, if I'm not mistaken. So it was a close game. And I remember another year where, because Valley Head's the 1A school, got seeded 8th seed, and I knew we were a lot better than the 8th seed, and we ended up beating Fife that year, the number 1 seed. So that was big. We ended up having an injury happen in the county tournament, and so that ended up hurting us. I think my point guard was at full speed the rest of the tournament, but anyway, I knew we had a good team that year. And then, of course, we made it to Jacksonville a few years back, and that brought back a lot of my memories from my time as a player. So, for them to get to walk through some of the things that I will always remember was very special.
Yeah, because the players, if they've never been to Jacksonville or experienced Birmingham or anything like that, it's a different world, but it's a great experience for them and something they'll always remember.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Jamie, we'll touch on this just a little bit, and of course, we're getting toward the end. But you have stepped down as head basketball coach at Valley Head, but you've not retired from teaching. So, I mean, I know you probably don't want to talk about this very much. That chapter closes, but in the future, are you going to leave yourself open to possibly maybe coaching again someday? Because, and everybody does this. They finish their retirement in the state they're in, and then they'll go to Tennessee or Georgia to coach again, to build up another retirement. Because naturally, the way we are today, it's hard to just drop and retire. It
Right.
costs way too much money nowadays. You can't just drop and retire and depend on your retirement. You've got a family that's still depending on you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to say I'm not going to. That's not on my priority list. I want to enjoy my family for a while. I want to be able to have my holidays for a few years anyway, if I can. Um, People don't realize what you give up when you're coaching. For 25 years, I've not had winter. It's on the holidays I'm practicing. So I think I'm kind of relieved. I'm going to miss it, I know, but I am relieved that I'm going to get to spend time with my husband and my grandson and my kids and just with my family for a little while.
Yeah,
So I'm looking forward to it.
yes, definitely a good point. You haven't closed the chapter, but we're just going to see what happens in the future. But Jamie, as a coach and as a player, your legacy, what do you want to be remembered for?
Hmm. That's a hard question, because I don't want to, I'm not a about me person. I just want people to, I guess, just remember me as someone who was a team player, who loved my team, considered it a family, and just a hard worker, you know. And I hope I always have that. I want to always be a hard worker, and so I try to instill that in my kids as well, because I feel like you can go lots of places in life, um, you know, knowing that you're a hard worker, and just my stand, with Christ as well, and um, that I couldn't do any of it without him, and I think that that was a big thing throughout high school. Is I always had that on my locker, a Bible verse, and that Philippians 4:13 was always my verse, because I was so small too, and I thought it suited me so well that I could do everything, through Him, and I believe that still today.
Well, I think you've left your footprint in Bellyhead High School, both as a player and as a coach. And mainly kind of what solidifies that is being recognized by your peers as being voted into the 2024 DeKalb County Sports Hall of Fame. I know it's a great honor. You should be proud. I know your family's proud. And of course, the banquet's coming up in a couple of weeks. And it's going to be an exciting time.
Yes, I'm excited for it.
Randy, is there anything you want to add?
I want to ask her how she didn't age, and we did. 'Cause I hear about 7 years older, and she looks the same as 1990. So,
I don't know about that.
hey,
I think, Randy, it goes back to our chosen lifestyle over the years.
hey, look, I got more grades for all three of us. I have two quick questions about your college career. One, and only someone who went to school there will know what I meant. You started your career at UCLA, the University of Chattanooga left on Amagola, which
Right.
people know as Chattanooga State. Just tell me what that brought to your. I mean, because that really was a nice stepping stone for you.
It was, and when I made that decision, I had several colleges I was looking at when I graduated, and um, something just stuck out to me when I went and visited Chattanooga State. It was a very nice campus, and yes, and I mean, there were several schools in Alabama, junior colleges and UAH that I had considered going to. Um, and, you know, I just kept, going back to 2 year school. I wanted to play. I didn't want to go and, sit on the bench anywhere because I wanted to go play. They drove to Valley Head to see me. And I thought that spoke volumes from their staff to come. They called, I was about to sign a scholarship somewhere else. And my mom called and was like, "Has she signed yet?" And my dad was like, "No." And she said, "Oh, they're on their way down here from Chattanooga State. Just tell her to come and talk to them." So they met me in Coach Holloway's office and gave them some game film. And I think the next week I went up and visited, and I knew at that point in time that that's where I was going. This beautiful place.
It was a great. I left Tennessee after not being very successful academically, and was on my way to UTC, but I needed to rehab my academic career. And I spent a year and a half at Chattanooga State, and it absolutely was the right decision for me too. I mean, it was. It was.
Yeah, I couldn't. My 4 years of college, I wouldn't change anything about it. I didn't feel bad to have to play at a 2 year school first. That's just what I chose for me. Like I said, I wanted to play. And I played all 4 years, lots of minutes, and had great success. Not only for myself, but as a team. We did big things at both schools that I went to. But I loved all 4 years.
Well, I want to ask you. I was in doing a little research. I ran across a little blurb about running into Coach Gwynn at Berry, who I know went on to the WNBA, and
Mm-hmm.
you had her for a short time, and it seemed like she made an incredible impression on you too.
Absolutely. You know, we played Barry both years at Chattanooga State, like in a summer or like I think it was a preseason thing, and I told my parents at the time. I said that's where I want to go play when I'm done here. I want to go to Barry. I loved her coaching style. She was very energetic, upbeat, and that was from me being on the opposing team when I saw her. Um, so we drove over there and, kind of met with her. Um, and she offered me a scholarship. It's not every day that you can get a full ride at Berry College. So I got 2 full years paid for. And I learned so much from her. Like, you think when you go to college, you're already almost as good as you can be. Well, that wasn't the case. I think I got better every year that I played in college, and it was due to every coach that I had. I learned something from everyone. She was more of the coach that um, incorporated a lot of, let's pass behind the back, let's do this, and we did those things in practice. And so she made that kind of stuff fun, where some coaches will be like, oh, you better not pass behind your back, or things like that. But she encouraged it, and she we worked on that stuff. But she's still an inspiration to me, and I'm still friends with her, and we still talk. And I only had her for a year, but I know that for the level of my last 2 years, she definitely made me to be at the level I needed to be at. I almost played the whole entire game from one end. We played man to man from one end of the court to the other, and she believed in being in shape. I will, I will never forget that.
Well, Phil, that's it for me. But first, I do want to mention Coach Vest had Ephesians 4:13 before Tim Tebow. So let's just make that clear.
Yeah.
As a Tennessean, I want that stated. And we really appreciate you, Coach Vest. And
Thank y'all. Thank you for having me.
Well, Jamie, one thing I want to, kind of touch on that you kind of touched on, and I don't think kids really understand this, especially ones that want to play at the next level. And I think you can give them advice on this. A coach, a organization, whatever, can only do so much. If you want to be recruited, you've got to build relationships on your own with colleges. And we've had several kids on that's told us that if you want to get recruited, you have to build those relationships yourself, whether it is to go with your parents and visit, text message, get to know somebody so they don't forget who you are. Because that's how you get recruited nowadays. It used to be
Right.
different, but that's the way it
Yes.
is now.
Yes, it's a lot different now than it used to be, but for sure, it kind of falls more on the players now than it does on the coaches. They'll reach out to the coaches after the fact, but for the first part, yes, players have to get on there and they have to um, make a relationship with the coaches. And there's all kinds of things out there, especially with all the technologies that we have now, for players to go on there and reach out to coaches. So
Well, definitely so. Well, Jamie, we sure appreciate you coming on. If there's any kind of shout out you want to give to anybody or anything that you might want to add, but we hope you enjoyed it. I know you were a little bit nervous about coming on, but you gave some great answers and we really enjoyed the conversation.
well, thank you. I appreciate y'all having me on.
You look younger than us, so feel good about that.
Well, thank you.
Bill, you got anything to wrap up?
That's it. I just want to let her know we sure do appreciate it and look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks at the banquet.
Okay, thank you.
We are so very lucky to have her here tonight. We appreciate her time and effort. And I think the advice that I'm going to take, Coach, if you want to play the next level, you can't be scared of hard work.
Correct. Yes.
He's Phil Harris. He's scared of hard work. But good night. God bless, and we'll see you next week.